There
to
you go. Should we talk about Bama and Gonzaga a little bit?
I think so.
Um, Gonzaga is a team that I still don't love. They beat Bama by 10 in a true road game that wasn't on Alabama's campus or even in Alabama City, but will be counted as a true road game nonetheless because that's how this stuff works. Um, Alabama's hilarious. I can't. I don't think I can bring myself to trust Alabama, but I will say they are an absolute joy to watch. I love watching this Bama team, but they've officially. I'm putting them right next to Illinois of teams that I know can beat anybody on any given night. Unbelievable level of talent, but I would have to be outside of my mind to trust them to win more than a couple games in a row in March. That's where I've arrived with Alabama. Unless something drastically changes, uh, I know that I'm terrified of Alabama because I'm going to be so wrong on them. And when March Madness rolls around, that like no matter what I decide to do with them in my bracket, I'm gonna be wrong because they just turn the ball over way too. Like it's
Right.
like it's not even it's not like the way I feel like commentators downplay Alabama's turnover issues is like they're a perfect team and they have this one like very slight weakness. And I'm screaming at my TV like this is not even kind of a slight. Like they are. I looked it up the other day. I think it's like Louisville, Seton Hall, and then Alabama are the top three power conference teams in turnovers and how much they turn it. And Louisville is Louisville, as we know. Seton Hall is not a good basketball team. And Alabama is a team that we're supposed to consider to be national title good. And they turn it's not that they kind of turn it over a little too much, Tate. They throw the ball all over the gym. They hand possessions to the other team left and right. And this has been a consistent problem the entire season, and I can't get past that. And that's like what this Gonzaga game was to me is like you guys are more talented. It's obvious you guys are more talented than Gonzaga. But when
Right.
you give them 20 extra possessions, like of course you're not going to win
I
the
mean,
game.
21 turnovers, 11 assists, right? That's what
It's
happens for Alabama
crazy.
in this game. I mean, that is just like there's no way that you ever win in that type of situation, no matter how amazing, Brandon Miller is when he puts up 36 points and everyone's oohing and eyeing. And then, the reaction after this game, it felt like most people were saying Alabama was a one-man show and Gonzaga had Drew Timme and he had help of his, the supporting cast and the other guys on Gonzaga made this game happen. But in reality, Alabama threw this game away, quite literally, throwing the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
And they kind of remind me of the Texas team like that Kevin Durant had in 2007. It feels like a team that has a lot of talent. You talk yourself into Brandon Miller. You're saying this guy can Carmelo Anthony a team to a championship, but at the end of the day, they're just a little too green. They're just a little
Yeah.
too. They're a little too, hesitant to actually play real basketball. They're playing a little bit of an AAU game, and Nate Oates wants to just get as many possessions as possible. So he's basically running like a high octane offense where he's like, "Who cares, baby? Every time we throw it away and we get a steal, we're just trying to get as many possessions as possible, try to score as much as we can." Gonzaga also wants to run and play that way. They just have more of a veteran group that knows how to, possess the ball and play play a common sense game. And I don't know that this Alabama team is awesome to watch, but it's also got to be frustrating at times because you're like, if we just settled down a little bit and
Yeah.
had like a true guard to kind of just get us in the right
Well,
places and figure it out for us, we'd be a really, really dangerous team.
well, that's what's crazy is they got Quinterly and Sears. They got two dudes that are
Yeah,
older that
Quinterly,
you would think.
I don't really believe in Quinterly to be
I
that
don't
guy.
understand how Quinterly isn't the guy, like for what they need, like in this regard. Like if I'm NATO, it's like pull Quinterly aside. I say, listen, your role on this team is one thing and one thing only, and it's do not turn the ball over.
Right.
When you come in the game off the bench, and all of our guys are rolling, and Clowney and Sears brings a lot of offense to them. He's a ton of fun.
Clowney and
And
Miller
and
are the two guys
but
to me.
Brandon Miller, like like when they're rolling,
Mhm.
uh but they're throwing the ball all over the place. I want you to come in, take a deep breath, calm everybody down, and take care of the basketball. And that simply does not happen. They don't have a single person on that team that I trust with the ball in his hands to not turn it over. And yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like I'm 70 years old watching basketball and complaining about these damn kids not valuing possession and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, like there's a reason that's kind of a cliche thing to complain about because like I said, it's not like a one-off thing. It's not like a every so often, every fourth game they turn it over like crazy. It's literally every single game. They're throwing every game I've watched of Alabama, they throw the ball all over the place. They're dribbling off their foot. They get charges taken on them. But then there's those moments of brilliance where Brandon Miller is like he's playing like a number 1 overall pick in any other draft than this year. And that was the case against Gonzaga, and he was awesome. And yeah, like the narrative for Bama coming out was like Brandon Miller didn't have any help in this game, but also like I don't know, there were at least 2 possessions that I remember where Gonzaga scores, they inbound the ball to Brandon Miller, and he dribbles like 15 times with 0 passes and puts a shot up. And I think he scored on both of them, which is good. That's the
Yeah.
goal. You're trying to score, but also like towards the end of the game, Gonzaga starts doubling him. There was one ball screen that comes off. They just straight up double him and trap him, and he has to get rid of the ball. And I forget who was calling the game, but they're like, man, if Miller could just get some help, he'd be. I was like, well, these guys have been standing there for
Right.
the last 20 minutes. They've just been standing there with ice cold legs. Like now all of a sudden they have to, make plays. And I don't know. I hate the way they approach the game in that regard. I said it when they it might have been it was the Houston game where I said I love this Bama team, but they don't play basketball. Like they don't. That's kind of like encouraging, I guess, if you're a Bama fan. You're like, man, if our guys could just figure out how to like actually set screens and actually move the ball around a little bit, and actually,
Right.
I don't think they play great defense, by the way. I don't
No,
think like
they're just long. I mean,
they're
they're
just long as hell. Yeah, they don't actually know what they're doing defensively either. They're so athletic and so gifted naturally that they can block a ton of shots and deflect passes and all that sort of thing. So I'm sure the Ken Palm stats say they're great defensively, or whatever stats you want to look at, or probably say Alabama has one of the best defenses. The eye tests, me personally,
yeah.
I watch them. I'm like, these guys don't even know what they're doing defensively. They don't know what they're doing offensively. They're just so freaking good that they can win games. So Alabama is so fun to watch, like I said. But man, I don't think I'll ever be able to trust them unless something. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get there with this group. I don't think
Well,
I can. I don't think there's
yeah.
enough time in the season.
Right. And I mean, to give up 100 points, you have a problem somewhere defensively. So, I mean, even though you're obviously they're trying to get as many possessions as possible, still you're giving up 100 points. And on the flip side, I did think it was a very encouraging game for Gonzaga. I mean, there's been 2 games this year, obviously, where Gonzaga, or maybe 3 games, I should say, that Gonzaga has gotten my attention. Michigan State, but that was on an aircraft carrier. But I was impressed that Drew Timme kind of handled things and got a nice win there. Obviously, when Kentucky, they play the road game that's a neutral game at the the Spokane Center or whatever, that Gonzaga had my attention then. And then in this game, they play well, they compete, they're down early in this game. You and I were looking, we're like, oh wow, Alabama jumps out to to a pretty big start, but then of course they kind of squander it, and Gonzaga goes on a big run. I think Drew Timme's still in the conversation as one of the top players in the country. Obviously, I mean he is playing great basketball. I think they're going to be a Sweet 16 type team. I think that's where Gonzaga is here. I think that's probably where their ceiling is. They're not they were preseason number 2. I don't think they're a Final Four team. And, I would love to be proven wrong about that, because I think, Mark Few needs a nice run with this group. But at the same time, this game didn't change my opinion of Gonzaga. It just proved that they can win in an up and down game like this against an athletic group, which is good to see. But at the same time, I still feel we're talking Sweet 16.
Yeah, Gonzaga. I mean, my takeaway: Gonzaga feels kind of like a pretty good Wisconsin team, where they.
Wow, that is gonna hurt.
Yeah, they have an obvious ceiling. They have like Timme is great. I do really like Timme. I always have. I just don't think that he's the best player in the country or anywhere close to it, honestly. And
29-10 in this game against Alabama.
29-10-4, and I still I've reached a point, Tate, where I'm not going to be fooled by big men putting up big stats anymore. Like it's that doesn't do it for me. The Gonzaga story is their guards. It will be their guards all year. Hickman was great in this game, and I think that like you said, they can make a Sweet 16. But yeah, it feels like a type of Wisconsin team that's like not going to beat themselves. They are solid in a lot of ways, but there's an obvious talent ceiling to this team, and I just can't take them seriously as a national title threat, because I don't think their guards are going to be good enough when it matters most, and I don't think Timmy's good enough to carry like Timmy's going to do this every night. Which yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm going crazy watching these big guys in college basketball, by the way, because I was watching even Baycott versus Ohio State. And I know that you'll agree with me because I know every North Carolina fan, like that was a big discussion point, is how Baycott was soft in the first half and Baycott's not that good. And Baycott's been driving you guys crazy all year. And then you look at his stats and he's like putting up monster numbers. Same thing with Trace Jackson Davis at IU. Same thing with Hunter Dickinson at Michigan. Like all these big dudes that are putting up monster numbers. I need more than that. I need same with Sheboy at Kentucky, dude. Sheboy is still, his production's still incredible. It means nothing. And as it turns out, like it's like all like it's ultimately like empty calories if you can't do it within the flow of what this game needs to be. And like if there aren't guys that are feeding off of your production, and if you dominating the game isn't opening up things for other guys to be great, then like it's ultimately pointless, and it's just you stuffing your own stat sheet.
It's very
so
NBA
I think in this particular,
I do respect that.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously are trying to go to the league. So, I mean, tip of the cap.
If in this particular game, I think Timmy that was helpful. I think Timmy was, the guards were great, and but I also think a lot of it was like Alabama just doesn't want to play defense. They don't. There was one of those possessions that I should have videotaped it and put it out. There was a stretch where Brandon Miller, I think he scores. Then on defense, he loses his guy, gives up a three. He's like playing help side. Just completely turns his head, has no idea where his man is. They swing the pass. He shoots a wide open three as Miller's trying to close out late. And he kind of contested because he's so long and athletic that he can get a hand up. Gets sprayed on a three, then catches the ball out of bounds as the point guard because he's taking over point guard duties because he's red hot. Makes 0 passes on the next possession and scores. And I'm like, this is the epitome of Alabama basketball right now. What I just saw is this guy like being lost on defense, still sort of challenging, but then the shot goes in. He's like, that's right, I'll make up for it on the other end. I don't know. So I thought Gonzaga was good. I thought like they took advantage of like they were an experienced team playing against a very young team, and it showed. But at the same time, I think there's still like an obvious ceiling to how good Gonzaga can be. Right. And I came away from this game wanting to talk more about Alabama and how up and down they are versus like, oh, dude, maybe I was wrong about Gonzaga. They look freaking awesome. Because I think Gonzaga is still exactly who I thought they were, which is like as you said, a Sweet 16 team.
Which is not that's not a knock. That's a really good team. I just don't know if they have anything, outside of that. And I would love, like I said, to be proven wrong. I also think Timmy might be the best guard on Gonzaga. And that's ridiculous. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I know how dumb that sounds, but like when Timmy gets the rebound and brings the ball up, I'm like, I kind of trust the ball in his hands more than anybody else at this point. So that's the other thing that's worrisome, because what do we know in March? It's guard play and defense. And, I'm not sure they have that this year.
Yeah.
Hey there, thanks for watching Titus and Tate. For the full friend of the program experience, subscribe right below and come join us for all things college basketball. The action is heating up. Come join Titus and Tate.